Morning. What up? What's going on in the hood? Holla dollar. Morning. What the fuck? What's going on? Hey, little echo. All right, cool. Let's get to work. Hey, well, there's a nice day in the market. You know what? We've had now multiple reversal days in the market. I think that's, a good sign. You can see here, like after that big dump, right? We had a kind of a reversal day a couple days ago. And then yesterday we gapped down and it looked like things could get dicey. And then we ended up really power closing, right back into the resistance of the previous day. Now we're breaking over it. So this is like, overall, it doesn't mean the market's like out of the woods here, but you could start to see, right? Like just kind of whenever you get a little bit of like a little W action, in the indexes, that's a sign of rounding. And you can even tell, like on the other side of things, that the actual price action on stocks has been slightly better too, for the most part. So let's take a look at just the indexes are looking okay. Let's take a look at market breadth and, kind of get a gauge. One thing is we're still getting, right, a lot of breakdowns. So the last few days, you can see the increase in breakdowns versus breakouts. But yesterday, it seemed like they were fairly even. So at least the market breadth is starting to even out a tad. That's the big thing. The one main thing that we need to see to understand that the market itself is healing is we really need to see, right, a rise in the number of breakouts. So, right, we track 4% breakouts, 4% breakdowns, percentage of stocks over its 200-day moving average, right, percentage of stocks over its 40-day moving average. This is a sign of what's happening right underneath the hood of the market. And this is actually something that you guys all should be checking every day, whether you're a day trader or swing trader, because it'll give you kind of the heartbeat of what's happening in the market. So, the last few days, like we've started at least to even out on the selling. You could see here, like, right, we're only 100, 150, 168 breakdowns. Now, the interesting part is that we've had very, very little breakouts. When you get like true market turns, and we'll know when we get like a true like monster cock run in the market, when these like the number of breakouts start going into like probably 400, 500 plus, and you get it for multiple days in a row. That's when you'll start to see, right? That's what we call a breadth thrust. That's when you'll really start to see the evening out of like, okay, we're getting into a healthy market. Because even though the indexes may start to grind higher, that may not mean that we're in a healthy market that's like really tradable, right? Even when the market was like kind of cruising higher over here, it wasn't really necessarily that tradable beyond like a bunch of, right, like kind of pump and dump stocks like cruising around. The SPYs all looking the same. So, overall, I would say we're in constructive action, but it doesn't necessarily mean we're out of the woods. Yesterday, there were some good plays, and that's like the big thing to remember is like, as long as, in any given day, you have something like, right, like in a firm or, something like that you can trade, then the market is tradable, even if you're not getting a lot of them. Let's first take a look and see if we got any good earnings plays, any good PR plays, and then let's start digging in and seeing what the rest of the list looks like, because there has been quite a few stocks that were popping yesterday. We might be able to play, and there's some just decent overall kind of bottoming patterns over here. BBIG, fucking 20% gap. We made money on this stock, of recent. Purchase of AdRiser. This might be something, but like you can't really chase up this stock like 22%. It's just not that kind of stock. I'd add it to the list, but I'm not necessarily that keen on it. It looks okay. This would really need like a little pull and go, and who knows? This has not been a good market for small caps. Like if you're primarily trading small caps, this hasn't been the market where they hold up well. There are some that are going, but for every one that's going, right, there's like 5 that fail. We can keep an eye on this because it'll have enough liquidity. If you're doing about 14 million shares in pre-market, I mean, you might get damn well near 100 million shares in volume for the day. So we'll keep an eye on it, but I'm not that keen on it. The only saving grace on this one is that we've shredded that so many times in the past that it ends up being a good one. NFB, your utilities sucked all year. Your utility company's no good. Neuro, this one has been stinking to trade too. See how you're like gapping up, but like you're gapping up right into resistance. That's not a good spot to gap up. What happens is like when something like that happens, it becomes like a palantar where you like gap up into resistance and you just kind of fade off into the day. So you don't really like something like this neuro, even though it's had a history of making moves, it was a very short history of making moves. Otherwise, it's been just a big smelly turd for quite some time. Tata Motors, these are my Indian people. Hold on here. What the fuck? Let me grab my tippy. Tata Motors, pass. Is that ADR? ADR stink to trade because the move is in the gaps. DATS. Look, this is probably due for a dead cat bounce, but there's like a good shot that this thing just like fades back into the two or three range over time. The chart's broken now. If it come back into like this zone here, I'd say like, okay, let's like maybe give it a whirl. But at this point, I mean, this is like right here, these two candles right here. I mean, this is like bag holder city right now. That's probably not something. And the spread and the liquidity's dried up on it. It'll have its day, but is it going to be now? Now, interesting thing was there was a note out from some like representative of China saying there were some good talks going and maybe some of these companies will survive. So now there's a whole host of these Chinese stocks bouncing up. I mean, fuck, man, these things are looking pretty cheap at the point. They may be able to give a whirl here. So you got your Baba. Baba's gapping up into resistance. See, the problem is, but Baidu, like, right, if you just kind of clear some of this, look, see how like it's been rejecting this area 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. So if you start to clear that area, and it typically does have like a little bit more oomph than Baba does due to the spread on it, that's probably something, that could work, right? You got PDD, just got to kind of clear some of this space here. You never know, like, the squeeze could be on these things, at this point, if we'll have to see if they hold. Like a lot of times they just kind of pop and fade. But what we want to see is like, okay, like you have your opening range, and then does it hold there? Does it build there? Does it do something, or does it just fade off like an asshole? We'll know that. So I would add Future is the best trader of the group, always has been. Baidu and Baba are the more tricky traders of the group. Baba's fine on the short side. On the long side, it's a tricky trader because it's got such a mega float on it that it trades really, really thick. If you think like AMD trades thick, like Baba's like AMD's big brother, it just trades real thick. I think Future is probably the one, right? Future Tiger, those are going to be okay. PDD trades pretty good. Baba's fine, but only on the short side. But I would add PDD, Future, and Los Tigres. Tigres for old time's sake. It's a Los Tigres. This is a great stock, my friends. Got to put the Los Tigres on for old time's sake. For old time's sake, man, we made some money on this thing in the past, and I'd like to do it again. I'd like to do it again. So I make sure you have 3 Chinese stocks on there. Billy's trades okay too. It's got a big spread on it, Dennis, but it looks fine. They're all going to move in the same manner, right? So what you want to do is like, if say you have a group of stocks that are moving in the same manner, right? Find something that fits the price range and liquidity and ATR that you like, And that'll kind of give you, you know, an idea. And in general, like you'll just have certain stocks you just trade well. So, you know, keep an eye on that. Like, for example, like NIO is a Chinese stock, but I never make any money on this thing. Yeah, it's just too thick. Hey, Mark. Yeah, you know what? This SoFi's got a nice bottoming pattern. To me, this is probably a little bit more of a swing trade stock, meaning like, you know, you could probably put a stop, like I use like $1.50 stop and just let it roll like this. This thing is not a good day trader for the most part. So it just doesn't have enough range. You know, like if you have 86, think about it like this. If you have 87 cent ATR, right? That's how much it moves up or down. You never capture the whole thing. But let's say you are like some expert, you can capture the meat of the move. So you can capture 40, I would say meat of the move is you got half, right? So you got 42 cents, 43 cents. Okay. So you got 43 cents. So how much does it take to really get a good shred? How many shares do you need to get a good shred on 43 cents? You're going to need like 4,000 shares. Beaky, do you love me? Do you hold me? You know, this Beaky is bottoming, but it just doesn't have any liquidity. You can see here, like, you got this big base. If ever, I put an alert at the 50 SMA, like if it ever gets over that bad boy, yeah, I put an alert at the 50 SMA, like if it ever gets over there, you'll have yourself, you have yourself a nice little pizza party. See this, it does the liquidity some days. Like lately it's been having it, you know, like it's 6 million's doable, 8's doable, 12. So, you know, a lot of times, like it looked like Beaky had dried up for a little bit, but the liquidity is there. Maybe just because it's getting so cheap or something like that. But I would put an alert at the 50 SMA. If it ever gets over there, let's take a look. Somebody had mentioned some other Chinese stocks. Let me take a look here. This go-to, man, this thing's such a slut. There's no trigger on go-to that's going to work. This is the only thing that's going to save this thing is like really some like news on its own, like some personal news on it, you know, but they all like Cal trades like shit. They just don't trade well. Like, see this, like what are you going to do with this thing? You know, what are you going to do with it? That's the problem. You know, that's EDU. They just don't have the range. Like, see this thing? These blocky candles, like, can't do anything with it. Yeah, like it looks cheap and it's great, but I think they need like an individual piece of news to really get them going. Otherwise, like it's like there's just better opportunities out there that you're going to be able to really kind of dicker and deal with. Fuck, this Shiba poo-poo thing is still going, huh? Anybody still in this? I got only 1/8 size left. Let's take a look on the downside. Junk, sock set. Good. All right, let's go into the regular watches. So you always have 2 buckets, 3 buckets of trading, right? What are your 3 buckets of trading? 3 buckets means like on your watch list, you got to have 3 buckets. Number 1, you have your PR plays, your earnings plays. Number 2, you just have good charts, right? Stocks that are about to start breaking out or stocks that are about to start bouncing. And then your 3rd bucket is stocks that you just trade every day, right? So those are just trending stocks, stocks that you know. And most importantly, they have to be stocks that you've actually made some money on. Otherwise, right, what's the point of trading them every day? So your daily traders are like your UPST, your mRNA, which lately I haven't been making money on it. So that's not in my bucket. But your UPST, your Affirm, your AMD type of stocks, and everybody should have in their 3rd bucket probably 4 or 5 names that you just, man, you just know how they move, right? You just know how they move, and you know how they kind of swirl around. That's going to be a good spot. Now let's take a look at kind of just our regular old stock list and see what's going on. We have a firm, big monster cock trender yesterday. There's a good shot because the trend was so big that maybe maybe you go red to green here, and then, like you pop up, and then it just does an inside day after like kind of the initial pop at some point if you get one, just due to the fact that the trend on this was 30 points. Just the kind of trade, like if you nail it right, that sets up your whole month. And if you don't nail it right, then you're just depressed for like days, right? You only get one of these, in a week. You only get one of these in a week or a month, especially one that actually trend. We'll have to be careful on this. There's a shot that, we end up just getting an inside day on this, and then, a couple days later it goes. But it's a daily trader for us at this point. We're going to have to keep it, and we'll just see what the fuck's going on. There's some good reversal plays yesterday. Let's add Roku to the list. I'm just going in order of importance here. Let's add Roku to the list here. You had a nice reversal, 22 points yesterday. Actually cleared two different MAs. You got your 9 EMA, 20 SMA. That may be a little bit of a bottoming pattern. UPST, and this is in our third bucket anyways. It's a daily trader, but you also remounted 920 SMA. And frankly, this has just been our baby for so long. Well, I can't even think of a day without a little UPST. What would be nice is if these fuckers would put the margin back on these things in an appropriate manner, but that doesn't seem like they are going to. Now let's go into just like some 200-day bounce plays. If any of you guys got IRAs or 401ks or swing accounts, this Yeti is like a nice rounding pattern here at the 200 SMA. You probably got a good hold on that, right? Shopzilla, also like a nice easy. And you should, when the market gets oversold, you should run probably about a 200 SMA scan, because that'll give you just some low risk kind of plays that you might be able to hold for a little bit of time. Docu's also, right, a nice 200 SMA bounce play. This has actually got, we've got a good history of making money on this one too. Like I would actually add this even for day trade. We've always made money on Docu, even though it's a big spread stock. This has been, this was our baby for quite some time. Now, on the other side of things, mRNA, BNTX are grinding down. I think probably one more dump on this. If this dumps off at the open, I think we go in for a bounce play on this. Due to the fact that 9 EMA is at 350, even though it's in a downtrend. One flush, especially if you get a like flush down into like the 290s, low 290s, you might get an over and under back over 300. And, that could trigger a move back into the 9 EMA. Usually notice how we haven't had a test of the 9 EMA, right? Since the dump started, usually you get like right a couple bounces into this thing. So now we're down about 50 points. You got a week open on this one. Man, if we could get a little spike down and a red to green, I think that would really get us going. Same thing, like, even on BNTX, it doesn't have as much of room, but, like one more push down, and I think we'll get a nice reversal on this. I think the mRNA is just more extended, where it seems like BNTX is actually probably more setting up, right, for a breakdown. But if one goes, they'll all go together anyways. So just kind of watch these ranges on these. I think we're going to be in a good spot. Don't get in front of it, though, because the range is really huge on these right now, right? 30 points on mRNA. You can see, let's go to hourly chart here. So this is your hourly chart. Like, see how you're just kind of falling into these MA. So you still got like some room, right? It's like in a big downtrend anyways. But like if you get one more, you probably get enough of an extension to be able to start getting into a play. Ideally, and if it doesn't get one more spike down, we might be able to do a little over under on the 300 spot. That's a little bit, it's not a high probability setup, but it's a setup in itself. We could take a little goose in the gander on it. I think that's it. The rest of this stuff will let it loose, let it hang, and we'll just have to be smart. It's not been the easiest of trading the last couple of weeks, but you got to just kind of get your teeth in one good trender Everything else tends to play itself out. As you know, markets always get easier. But right now, as we're grinding down into the Qs over the last month, that just increases the difficulty in the market. I don't think it's a good market for swing trading stocks right now. I don't think it's a good market for doing anything to counter trend. Hey, at least this skin does have this is one of the few charts that does look really, that's held up really well, by the way. Yeah, you degenerates would be all up into this. No, it does look pretty good. You know what? I'm fine with low float stocks. I like the higher price ones just because they give you a little bit more range. I would definitely roll with them. Mr. Pundell, how you doing? We got to catch up sometime.